Okay, so Baruch Hashem, we have an exciting lesson. I'm not gonna do another review like we usually do, because we're gonna do Rabbi Bar Chana right now. For anyone who doesn't know, Rabbi Nachman ends a lot of his initial lessons with a story from Rabbi Bar Chana from the Gemara Bava Batra. These stories are usually pretty bizarre and seemingly have nothing to do with what we learned. And Rabbi Nachman's going to show in a very, very beautiful, very hypnotic way how everything that we learned so far is actually in this story. So let's see what he says. Zeh Perush. This is the explanation, says Rabbi Bar Chana. Amar Rabbi Bar Chana. Zimna chada ve'kazlina b'mad bara. We were traveling along in the desert. V'itlave ba'adana hu taya. And we were accompanied by a merchant, by a taya. What's this taya? So the Rashbam says, Socher Ishmael. It's an Islamic merchant, okay? Which interestingly in Rabbi Nachman's Torahs always usually refers to the Tzadik Emet. He usually refers to the true Tzadik. In the sense that he's a socher, he's a merchant. We're going to find out what's the connection between being socher and being the Tzadik.
Live now.
Dahave Shakil Afra Umorachle.
Live.
Ben Weinberg, can you just mute everybody? Thank you. Okay. So what would he do? This Yishmaelite merchant, he would pick up earth from the ground and he would smell it. Pretty normative stuff. You guys are used to this, okay? Vamar, and he said, Ha orcha leduchta plan. This path is going to lead us here. It's such and such place. This is the way. Ha orcha leduchta plan. And this is the way to such and such place. So this Yishmaelite merchant is very in tune with nature, and he's able to intuit from the smell of the earth how far away and what is the path to get to each place. Amri lanle, we being simple Jews, we asked him, Kama marachignan mimaya, how far are we away from water? V'marlan, he said, Havu li afra, give me some dirt. Yahavinanle, we gave him some dirt. Amarlan, he said to us, Tamanyam parseh, we are 8 parseh away. Parseh was a measurement from ancient times, and it equates to a certain amount of miles. So we have 8 parseh. That's how far we are. Okay. Taneinan v'yahavinan la. We again asked him, Amarlan, how far are we away now from the water? And later on, he said, the Mamchakinan Talta Parseh. We are now 3 parseh away. Afechit le velo yechelit le. We switched the dirt around, but we still could not get the better of him. So the Rashbam says, what do you mean? It means that they took this dirt and they switched it with this dirt in order to test this Yishmaelite merchant, whether he was really an expert or not. Okay, so very fascinating Gemara. Let's see how this connects to everything that we've learned so far about tefillah getting answered, about the Tzadik, about learning Torah, about attaching our prayers to the Tzadikim in order that the prayers should get answered. So B'ezrat Hashem, it's going to be very, very beautiful. So you got to listen and pay attention. Zimna chada idlavim bahada hutaya. One time we were traveling along with this Yishmaelite merchant, Socher Yishmael, Zebechinat Tzadik Ador. This Yishmaelite merchant, says Rabbi Nachman, is the concept of the Tzadik of the generation. That we know that Rabbi Nachman holds very much that there is one true Tzadik in every generation. This Tzadik is the root of the souls of the Jewish people, like Moshe Rabbeinu was in his generation. And he serves the same exact function as Moshe did as well. That in order to, so to speak, find Hashem at the highest level, you're going to have to learn from Moshe. You're going to have to attach yourself to Moshe Rabbeinu or to the Tzadik of the generation. In this case, it's the Yishmaelite merchant, Kamoshe Katuv. And what is really the function of this Tzadik Ador? Shehu klu kot tefilot k'Mashiach. That one of the reasons why he is so effective at being the Tzadik of the generations, what makes him so special and unique, and why it's so important that we attach to him, is because in fact, he is the encompassment of all the prayers of the Jewish people. That if you took all of the prayers of the Jewish people, it manifests in the presence, in the wisdom, in the advice, in the guidance of the tzaddik of the generation. So to speak, we're producing him, we're creating him through our tefillas. And in that sense, he's like the Mashiach, because we know that according to Kabbalah and Chassidut, Mashiach is mamish, the result of all the prayers of the Jewish people over exile. So all these thousands of years of prayers are going to come together and they're going to culminate in the building of the Mashiach. This is one of the reasons why Rabbi Nachman said that it's going to be in the merit of those simple Jews that they say Tehillim every day, that the Mashiach is going to come. So one of the reasons is because all of those prayers are building the Mashiach himself. He says that they're going to crown the Mashiach. Okay? And this is what makes the tzaddik, because the prayers are the concept of this Yishmaelite merchant, Kamosha Katuv, because it says about Yishmael, Ki Shema Hashem El Anyech. Why is he called Yishmael? Because Hashem hears his pain. Meaning to say that in some ways there's this Maila of Yishmael, which in fact has come to haunt the Jewish people, because Hashem has a special connection to them, and that he mamish hears their pain. He hears their suffering and he answers them. And we're still dealing with this to this day. However, in this Gemara, we're saying that's the concept of the Tzaddik Ador, that Hashem always hears his prayers, and that he himself is the embodiment of those prayers that Hashem hears our pain through. With Targumu, and what does Targum Onkelos explain? Kabel Hashem tzlotech, that Hashem hears Yishmael's prayers. V'zez socher. This is the concept of a merchant. Ki saviv, because the concept of socher is Targumu sachur. In Aramaic, he says that this means to surround, right? It's to go in circles, to surround. So what's the connection between encircling or surrounding and tefillah? Because we know that the concept of circles is the concept of emunah. This is very Kabbalistic. We know there's a concept of a square and a circle in Kabbalah. The square is connected to justice, mishpat, or emet, or truth. And the concept of a circle is the concept of emunah. What's the difference? So a square has measurements. A square you can point to some point in the square, and you can locate it, you can connect to it, you can attach yourself to it in a felt, understandable way. But the concept of a circle is that it never ends. And the concept of a circle is there's no point that you can grasp in it. Just like Emunah, Rabbi Nachman says, begins where truth ends. Right? Where does faith begin? When you can't understand anymore. When you move beyond the boundaries of understanding, it's not that you move into a realm that you fall off the world. You actually go into the orbit now of Emunah. So this is the concept of him being socher. He surrounds. That's what it means that he's a merchant. Because he's constantly traveling around and around, it means that he's living in the world of Emunah, which we know is the essence of tefillah. Rabbi Nachman says Emunah is tefillah. So if he's a Baal Emunah, it means he's a Baal tefillah. His tefillahs get answered. Kamosha Katuv, like it says in Tehillim, Be'emunatecha Saviotecha. The David HaMelech says your Emunah is surrounding. Your faith surrounds you. Okay? So Rabbi Nachman is bringing an explicit pasuk to say that this is one of the essential elements of Emunah. It's always going in circles. It's always surrounding. So too in life, that we always connect a life to a circle, that somehow life has a funny way of beginning where it ends. And in truth, it doesn't really make sense. But we see that Hashem has a sense of humor, and he likes to take things which seem to be chaotic and to be chaos and to be a sense of, complete tohu vavohu, and that this ends up bringing its way back to the ultimate good. And that's the concept of faith, that it encircles, that no matter what's going on in our life, no matter how troubling and difficult it is, we have to understand that Emunah is like a circle. There's no point in it that we can grasp and we can say, I understand, right? But ani ma'amin, we believe. And through this belief, we eventually circle around back to the point that we're hoping for. V'itlavin bahada hutaya. And this merchant, this Tzadik Ador, he was accompanying us, meaning shekasharnu et atzmenu im Tzadik Ador. It means that we have attached ourselves to the Tzadik of the generation. That's why he's accompanying us. Shehu b'chinat Mashiach, meaning that we're mamish attaching ourselves to the Mashiach, because the Mashiach is the Tzadik of the generation. Kalali with tefillah, in the sense that he's the encompassment of all the tefillahs of the Jewish people. That's his koach. So when we are attached to the tzaddik of the generation, we're mamish attached to the Mashiach of our generation. And it's through this that we're able to grow exponentially. It's through this that we're able to do teshuvah from ahava. It's through this that we're able to get our prayers answered, and we're able to grow, and we're able to break through all boundaries. It's all through Hitkashrut to the tzaddik. And that's why Rabbi Nachman, this is one of the biggest points of interest and a focus for Rabbi Nachman, something that makes Breslov Chassidut unique, that even amongst Hasidus, it's not usually spoken about as much as he speaks about it. Except maybe by the Noam Elimelech, that he speaks a lot about this as well. But by Rabbi Nachman, this was mamash essential. He says that a whole Jew's life is bound up in this, that the most important thing that a Jew can do his entire lifetime, mamash, the most important thing that he can do, is to find and attach himself to the tzaddik of the generation. And it's through doing this that he's able to leave behind the desert, like the Jewish people in the desert, and they were able to get to Eretz Yisrael, is all b'schut their Hitkashrut to Moshe. Shakil Afra Morach Bamar, and the tzaddik of the generation, he's asking for dirt, and he's asking if he can smell it. Why? And he says, Haladuchta plan. This is the way to this place. Haladuchta plan, and this is the way to this place. He knew all that through the scent of the dirt. This is all the concept of tefillah. Kamosha Katu, Yitain Kafar Charbo. His sword will make them as earth. We know this is referring in Tehillim to Avram Avinu, that it says that he was throwing dirt at his enemies, and that dirt became swords. But we know that, and Rashi says it many times, Onkelos says it many times, Rashi says it many times, that whenever it says that the Jewish people, that they have a sword, what is their sword? Rabbi Nachman makes it very clear as well. Their sword is tefillah. That's our weapon. So what does it mean that Avraham Avinu took the dirt and it turned into a sword? It means he took the ground, which is always the concept of malchut. Malchut is the concept of tefillah or emunah. He took that and he strengthened it, and he used it to fight his enemies, to overcome his difficulties and challenges in his life, and it became a sword for him, and it destroyed his enemies. So too, this pasuk says, give me the dirt, and I'm going to be able to figure out how far we are. The cherub is a bechina tefillah, because the sword is the concept of tefillah. Like Rabbi Nachman brings elsewhere, this is the connection between tefillah and the brit, that to the degree in which you rectify your area of sexuality, which is the brit, to that degree you get your prayers answered. And this is all hinted to in Tehillim, where David HaMelech says, I'm resting my sword on my thigh. We know the concept of the yarech, the thigh, is always a code word for this male body part between the legs. What's the reason that you don't say it explicitly and he's saying the thigh instead, that my sword is on my thigh? Because the Torah doesn't speak, the Rambam says, in a language which can, sound promiscuous or, throw you off. So why is the sword on the thigh? Because David HaMelech is trying to teach you that your ability to access your sword, meaning your tefillah, is by rectifying your thigh. It's by rectifying your brit. And to the degree in which you make progress in the area of the brit, to that degree you're going to see your prayers are getting answered. And this is also the reason Rabbi Nachman says that the Moshe of the generation becomes the Tzadik of the generation, becomes the Mashiach, because he says that point of Mashiach within every Jew is his brit. To the degree in which he connects to, that he elevates himself in this area of sexual purity, to that degree he finds this point of Mashiach inside of him. He's able to find his own personal geula and to kick into the geula of the Jewish people as well. Kamosha Katuvs, Bacharbi Vakashti, like David HaMelech says, with my sword and with my bow. This is actually Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu says, with my sword and with my bow. How did I get this city of Shechem, which we said in this Torah, Shechem is really a code word. It's not just the city. Shechem is a code word for Shafal, Kochavim, and Malachim, that there's 3 levels of physical and spiritual existence. And Rabbi Nachman teaches that the Jew, that he is the tzaddik of the generation, he has the city of Shechem, and he does it with his sword and his bow, meaning through tefillah, he's able to change teva. He's able to manipulate the physical world through his prayers, and he's able to draw down Shechem into all 3 levels of existence. That's what it means that Yaakov gave this birthright to Yosef. What did he give to Yosef? He gave him the ability to get his tefillahs answered. He gave him emuna shlema. And it's through this that he was able to draw Shefa into these places. And obviously this is as well connected to the fact that Yosef is the Tzadik, and Yosef is the master of the Brit, just like his father was, Yaakov Avinu. And this sword and this bow, which he used to conquer Shechem, meaning all three levels of existence, to conquer and to dominate, like Rabbi Nachman says, that it's the mission and it's the future of the Jewish people, that we should actually be higher than the Malachim. We should cause them to fold into submission and to bow to our Ratzon. The way that we do this is through tefillah. When you reach a level of complete emunah, then even the Malachim do your bidding. So when he said my sword and my bow, he really means through my tefillah, like Rashi says there. Umorach, why is he smelling this dirt? Ki yesh lo koach hazeh la'ariach, because it's through his tefillah that he's able to smell. Al yadei shehu klo kol tefillot, because we know that the different levels of the soul are connected to different physical senses. And interestingly, the highest level of the soul, which is called the Yechidah, which is really the part of the soul which is connected to Mashiach, because we know that the Mashiach is the only soul that he is fully manifesting this element of the Yechidah, which means the unique aspect of the soul, which is the point of the soul, which is the same in every Jew. This is the highest part of that soul. And what is it? It's really the full encompassment of our prayers. Okay? This is Emunah, that the highest point of the Jewish soul is called Emunah. It's called Mashiach. It's called Tefillah. And that's why the Gemara says that Tefillah, it exists in the highest planes of existence. And that's the concept of smell. That despite the fact that the nose is below the eyes, is below the ears, the concept of scent spiritually is the highest sense possible. So this Mashiach of the generation, he has the ability to judge through his scent, just like Moshe Rabbeinu judged through his sight, just like Shlomo Melech judged through his hearing. Mashiach is going to judge through his sense of scent, because he's more elevated than even Moshe Rabbeinu in some sense. He's even more elevated than Shlomo Melech in some sense, that he is able to judge and to determine and to connect to reality through Ruach HaKodesh that comes from his tefillah, from his emunah alone. Like it says, like Hashem says to us, that if you pray to me, I'm going to clog my nose for you, which means simply that he's going to mitigate judgments through tefillah, that when we engage in emunah and when we give in tefillah b'koach, like we learned earlier in the Torah, that when a Jew prays with energy and with life force, with focus and with concentration, as a result of that, he breaks all judgments and he's able to draw down answers to his prayers. He's able to draw down shefa into the world. And he says, this is the way to this place. Shehu Yodei Sha'arei Tefilot, meaning he knows the gate to your prayer. Remember we said before that it's very difficult to find your own gate of tefillah, but everyone has one. Every Jewish man and woman has their own personal gate to tefillah that is up in Shamayim, and we don't know what it is. So Rabbi Nachman says that if it's so important and so vital that you get your prayer through your own gate, that's the only way it gets answered. So how do we make sure that we get it through that gate if it's so difficult? The answer is that Yaakov Avinu gave birth to those 12 children. He gave birth to those 12 mazalot. He gave birth to those 12 gates. And as a result of that, if you connect to Yaakov Avinu, you automatically connect to all 12 gates. This is the secret of the Arizal when he made up his own nusach in tefillah. And he said that if you pray Ashkenaz or you pray Sephardi, it's good. But those are only 2 of the 12 gates. But if you pray my nusach, so you're automatically going to be getting it up all 12 gates. This is the secret of why Chabad uses the Sephard, the nusach of Sephard, because it's according to the Arizal's nusach. So what's the reason? Because the Arizal was a Tzadik Ador. He was the Mashiach of that generation. His students really mamish thought he was Mashiach ben Yosef, and he alluded to this as well. So too for us. When we connect to the Tzadik of the generation, he knows where your prayers go. He's able to elevate your prayers to the place that it needs to go. And how do we do this? It's very, very simple. Before I come to pray the Amidah, before I come to pray Hibodedut, before I come to pray Tehillim, before I come to do Tikkun Chatzot, before I come to pray, whenever, I simply say very quickly, Hashem, please attach me to all the true tzaddikim of the generation, all the true tzaddikim who are buried in the earth, and to the Tzadik Yesod Olam, to Rabbi Nachman and Fega. And it's as a result of this that you get your prayers answered, because you're attaching yourself automatically to the Mashiach of the generation and all past generations, the encompassment of all prayer. We said to him, how far are we from water? What were they really saying to him? And he said back to them, bring me dirt. They took the dirt and he said it's 8 parseh away, meaning it says in Eicha, which we just said, and Tisha B'Av, pour out your heart like water before Hashem. And Rabbi Nachman uses this pasuk to exemplify, that's not a real word, to show what is the highest level of tefillah. How do you know that you're really praying b'koach if your words are mamish flowing from your heart like water? When your words flow like your heart from water, that means that your prayers are b'koach, and those prayers are going to get answered. This is also alluded to in the Gemara when I believe it was Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, but I'm not sure. But one of the Tanaim, he used to pray and used to know that his prayer was getting answered when his tefillah was flowing from his tongue easily, naturally. When it was flowing like that, he was able to get his prayers answered. He knew already that Hashem was answering it just based on the fact that it was flowing like water from his heart. So when you find that you're able to do your tefillah long enough, and I see this usually when I do Hibodedut for that hour, that those last 5-10 minutes, after closing my eyes all the time, I'm in such a state of bitul, of self-nullification, that I forget my surroundings completely. It's at that point that I'm able to mamish open my mouth and to speak from my heart, and it's just flowing from me. I'm not, wondering or thinking or, it's just very, very, very natural, and it's very cathartic, and it's mamish just flowing from my heart. And I usually know as well when I pray for other people, that if that tefillah flows from me, like water from the heart, I find often that prayer gets answered. And we can also see from that Gemara as well that it said that one of the students of the Tanaim, that when he had a carry, right, he had an accidental emission at night. So the next day when he woke up, he came to his rabbi and he was stuttering, he was stammering as he was speaking. Because Rabbi Nachman explains, like we said before, to the degree that you rectify your brit, to that degree you rectify your speech. Okay? So the more that you rectify your brit, the more that you're able to speak. And Rabbi Nachman says, what's the ikar of speech? That it gets answered. And this is a big chiddush. Meaning to say that when the Torah speaks about you talking to Hashem, tefillah, that he shomei tefillah, he answers prayer. So how come I'm not getting my prayer answered? Because your tefillah has not yet entered into the category of speech, because spiritual speech always gets answered. So what's causing my speech not to be answered? So the answer is the Brit. The more that you rectify the Brit, the more you enter into the category of speech, and the more your prayers get answered. Taneinan v'yavinanle. Taneinan. Okay, so what does it say? Marle. We're 8 parseh away. What's this 8 parseh away? Hainu limud Torah shehu chamisha chumshei Torah v'shalosh tefilot. Rabbi Nachman says something awesome. He says, what does it mean we are 8 miles away, let's call it 8 miles away from water? It means that we are the 8 bechinas away from pouring our heart like water from tefillah. Meaning, how do I get to the point that I can mamish have tefillah, that it gets answered? I can mamish have tefillah that I can pray with koach, with energy, with strength, with hidlaf, with fire, with concentration. So you need to overcome these 8 levels. What are the 8 levels that you need in order to have this? Well, first of all, even before the 8 levels, you attach yourself to the Tzadik of the generation, because they're hanging out with the Yishmaelite merchant. That's what it means. And then through this, he's able to cultivate these 8 levels within you. That is the 5 books of the Torah and the 3 established prayers of the day, Shachrit, Mincha, and Arvit. So this is what the Tzadik of the generation is saying. He's saying that we're all these 8 bechinas away from getting our prayers answered, praying in a way that it is drawn from our heart like water comes from the heart. and then the prayers will get answered. So meaning that when we have the Vekud with Hashem through tefillah, meaning that we have this level of praying 3 times a day, and we are learning the 5 books of the Torah, meaning simply to say, like Rabbi Nachman says in the first Torah of Moharan, that the Megnagdim, they say learn, 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 and the Hasidim, they say pray, 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 but I say pray, learn, pray, because it's this ability to pray and to learn and to go back and forth between these two things. This gives you these 8 bechinas that you need before you get your prayers to flow from your heart like water. And then after we made progress, the students of the Tzadik, they said, how far are we from water now? So they gave him more dirt. Taneinan, and this word taneinan, we gave him again, Lashon Limud. In Aramaic, it means to learn. Meaning taneinan, we learned after he told us we're 8 parsei away. So we started to learn more Torah, taneinan. So this is a beautiful chiddush. And after that we learned, we gave him more dirt. Like many people think, okay, so I'm just going to learn Torah. And if I just learn Torah, everything's going to work out. So we wanted to see if that's where we were holding. We started learning Torah. We gave him this dirt, meaning we asked him to judge our tefillah now. Are we at the level that it's coming out like water? How far are we? And he said, we're 3 parsei away. You're not doing hibodedut yet. You're not praying yet with real intensity, with real genuinity. You're not praying with real investment in the concept of tefillah. This is the concept of the 3 tefillahs of the day. He proved to us that because we have not yet accessed the 3 tefillahs of the day, meaning we're not praying every day the 3 prayers, we're not doing hitbodedut, we're not saying Tehillim, we're not doing tikkun chatzot. So because we're not really invested in tefillah like we're invested in Torah learning, we're still not at the level that we can pray in a way that the words mamash flow from our mouth like water. V'haraya, what was the proof? A feichi, that we switched around the dirt. Like it says in Tehillim, but you have turned back the edge of the sword and you have not let him stand in battle. Meaning, because all of the prayers become a sword in the hand of the Mashiach. Like Rabbi Nachman says, the Mashiach is going to conquer all the enemies of the Jewish people through tefillah. He says this in the second Torah. It sounds like it's coming from his tefillah, but here he's getting deeper and he's saying something beautiful. That what is this sword of tefillah that the Mashiach uses to overcome all the enemies of the Jewish people, to bring the Geula, to bring the redemption? It's actually the prayers of the Jewish people. All the prayers of the Jewish people become the sword in the hand of the Mashiach. And if the prayers had been described above, meaning they were offered with true devotion, they were offered mamish in a way of water coming from the heart, that sword wouldn't have been turned away. The Mashiach, meaning the Tzadik, would have been able to use your tefillah to get his prayers answered. Because he wasn't able to turn your tefillah into his sword to be able to overcome the enemies of Klal Yisrael, to be able to overcome these impediments, these forces which are keeping us in exile, the Tzadik of the generation knew that we were not at the level of pouring out our tefillah like water. This is the sign that we had not yet reached the level of pour out your heart like water before Hashem. Okay. Bezrat Hashem, next lesson we will continue, and we're going to learn that this ability to pray in a way that it flows from your tongue, this mamish causes miracles. Nisim, which go above nature, because the whole entire essence of Emunah Shlema, that you have really achieved real Emunah, which you can see when you get your tefillahs answered, is when the tefillah changes nature. Because the whole essence, Rabbi Nachman says, of the tefillah is it's mala min hateva. He says it in the 7th Torah as well. Because when you come to pray for something, you are you're in a way you're showing that you have not yet really achieved an answer to your prayers. And if you haven't achieved an answer to your prayers, it means things are going according to the ways of nature. However, by achieving this higher level of tefillah, this higher level of emunah, then your prayers automatically determine and change and augment nature for you. Okay, but that's only when the tefillah comes out and pours out like water. This is one of the reasons why Rabbi Nachman says that you should do it every day. Because really, who's the person who's able to constantly, every single day, go back and forth between learning and praying and learning and praying? It takes tremendous commitment and focus, it takes tremendous determination, it takes tremendous perseverance. So if you do it every day, Rabbi Nachman says you have a good shot. Because you're going to give yourself the koach and the energy and the strength to have that ability for the rest of the day, to have in your mind, what are the goals of my day? What do I want to do today? What do I want to accomplish today? And no matter what, how am I going to have the strength to overcome the difficulties that come, which they will come by way of me trying to achieve this in my life, to be able to get to Emunah Shlema, which is going to come from a lot of learning Torah and a lot of Hibodedut, a lot of praying. So it's through Hibodedut that you're going to get to the level that you can pray and learn like this, and then ultimately get your prayers that they're flowing from your heart like water. That's why Rabbi Nachman says, do Hibodedut every day, because it's like water on a rock. Eventually the rock, meaning your heart, it breaks open and the water starts to flow out, the tefillah starts to come out very easily. When I first started doing Hibodedut the first year, I mamish couldn't speak. I was just screaming. It was really mamish just screaming. But now, thank God, when I come to pray, it's the most natural thing in the world. And mamish flows out like water. It's the part of the day I look forward to the most. It's something amazing, but you have to keep at it. You have to mamish just keep going every single day, even when you don't feel like it, even when your eyes are rolling in the back of your head from fatigue. You just keep doing it every day, pushing. And eventually, with Hashem's help, you're going to see that your heart is going to split open and the water is going to come pouring out, and all your prayers, Bezrat Hashem, will get answered. Does anybody have any questions from today's lesson?
Hi, Rabbi. How are you?
Hi. Good, thank God. How are you?
Good, thank you. I have a question. What do you mean about your own specific gateway to prayer?
Sure, good question. So Rabbi Nachman explained in the beginning of this Torah that according to the Zohar, when the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, they left in the merit of their emunah, which we know that Rabbi Nachman explains that emunah is tefillah, so they left in the merit of their prayers. Where do we see any connection between the Jewish people leaving Mitzrayim, meaning leaving behind their suffering behind? Because the word Mitzrayim comes from the word Meitzar, which means to suffer. How do they leave behind their suffering? Through emunah. Where do we see that? Because the ocean, says the Zohar, split into 12 lanes. Actually, the Midrash says this. Then the Zohar goes on to say, what were those 12 lanes? They were the 12 nusachot of tefillah, meaning that each of these tribes, they had their own particular nusach of tefillah through their capping out on their own tefillah, through their nusach, they were able to leave Mitzrayim. They were able to leave their suffering behind. Meaning that in order to leave Mitzrayim, in order to leave your own challenges and tribulations behind, you need to find your own gate of prayer. Okay? Now, Rabbi Nachman explains, we're not able to figure that out. We don't know what our gate of prayer is. So in this Torah, he says, the way that you can for sure capitalize on this and make sure that you are getting your tefillahs up through your own gate is by attaching yourself to the Tzadik, to the Moshe, to the Mashiach of the generation, because he automatically is the encompassment of all tefillot, and therefore when you pray and you attach your tefillah to him, he will automatically get your tefillah up through your own personal gate. So you simply say before you pray, Hashem, please attach me to all the true tzaddikim, and as a result of that one little prayer that you say before you pray, you will get your prayers up through your own gate, Rabbi Nachman says.
Oh, okay, I understand. I remembered you saying that, but I wasn't sure if there was another something else that I maybe missed, but okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's the connection. Good question, Dina. Any other questions before we sign off? Sure. You can also ask on the bottom. You can text it if you don't want to ask in person. It's a good thing to ask questions. It helps you to learn, helps you to grow. Anybody else? No? Okay. So I just wanted to make an announcement that our own Ben Weinberg, the COO of Zion Breslov Project, has started teaching classes. And it's a very, very exciting development for us. And I'm really, really looking forward to hearing his lessons moving forward. So for all of you, I highly suggest that you check it out Monday nights, I believe at 9 p.m. Eastern time. He did his first class. You can watch it or hear it on SoundCloud. But it should be a beautiful new dimension of our organization to be able to give classes from this space that he's trying to cultivate. So that's one announcement. The other announcement is, thank God we have a class, Bezrat Hashem, in Yerushalayim in Har Nof this Sunday night, which will be 1:30 p.m. time, American time. So I highly suggest that you check that class out. Bezrat Hashem, we're going to speak about positive thinking and how that leads to a positive reality. So look out for announcements regarding that. There's one question here before we end off. To ask Hashem for a sign when you're doing Hipodadut, is that okay? You can do whatever you want. Rabbi Nachman says that when you pray to Hashem, pray to him like he's your best friend in your Hipodadut. So let's say, for instance, you were talking to your best friend and he wasn't showing his cards and he wasn't showing you whether he wants to answer your request or not. And you say, please show me what you want, or show me if this is something that you feel like you're compelled to help me with. So if you feel that that's what you would ask your best friend, so you can. However, at the same time, it's clear from the Torah that we're not superstitious people, and our emunah shouldn't be built on superstition. So not to take things like a deer passing in the street or a cat going under a ladder or any of these things, they shouldn't mean anything to us. However, in the course of your conversation with Hashem, if it's genuine and it's real for you, that you really are mamish just looking for Hashem in your life, and you just want to know that he's with you and that he wants to answer, so then, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's good. I've done it many times, and David HaMelech does in Tehillim explicitly. He says, by this thing, I'm going to know that you want me, right? So that's a sign. It says on the bottom here, I asked for a butterfly, and then there was one, but I thought it was crazy. No, you're not crazy. Hashem runs the world. I actually heard a story recently. There was a person that he was mamish an atheist, and I don't know what happened to him, but he was compelled, like in the middle of the street, to just start talking to Hashem. And he said, God, if you're really there, make this street light flicker. Not just turn on, but flicker. And the street light flickered. And he thought, like it was just a coincidence, or he was crazy, whatever. And he said, Hashem, if that's really, really you, make it flicker again. And it did. And after that, he became Baal Tshuva. So obviously, everybody has their own path, everybody has their own way. But the real truth is that Hashem runs the world. And it's not hard for Hashem to do anything. To the degree that we believe that he can, to that degree, he answers our prayers. Okay? So B'ezrat Hashem, this lesson should really, really help us with our emunah, and to understand that obviously this is a long-term goal. It's not a short-term goal. It takes a tremendous Hitkashrut with the Tzadik. It takes a lot of learning Torah, and it takes a lot of praying to Hashem before your heart can pour forth speech like water. Okay? So B'ezrat Hashem, this will bring us a step closer to that, a step closer to the Geula, a step closer to the Mashiach. And the Mashiach is going to be able to use all of our prayers as a sword in his hand to overcome all the enemies of Klal Yisrael and to bring the redemption of Rabbi Yemenu. Everybody have an amazing night and an amazing day.